Welcome back, guys. Coffee Time episode 15. And today, we're going to make this make sense.
Welcome back, everybody. It is so great having you here on Coffee Time episode 15. Today, we're going to go through some camera basics and camera terminology to get you going right out of the box. So say you grab your camera, you spent millions of dollars on it because cameras are expensive, and you grab the manual and you're like, yeah, I don't need it at all. And so you start looking at all those buttons and saying, maybe I did need a manual.
No, you don't. Because that's what we're here to help you with.
That's right.
Now. So let's kick this off with some terminology. And first term we're going to teach you here is ISO.
What does that mean?
That means the sensitivity of your image sensor, also known as fake light.
Artificial light to help your camera grab the photo.
So a big thing about ISO is you want to keep it as low as possible. If you get too high, you're going to start getting gross, grainy, just not a sharp image, and it looks terrible. So depending on what type of camera you have, depends on how high you can set that ISO before it starts looking gross.
Disgusting.
So if you are looking at more like a consumer camera like a Rebel, you're going to be able to put it up to around probably 1600 before you start seeing any sort of disgusting grain. If you have a pro camera, you'll be able to put it up a lot higher, maybe into like the 10,000 range, but it depends on your camera, and you'll have to figure that out depending on what camera you own.
So maybe it's a good thing you kept the manual, not like me who threw it away. Maybe look at it a little
You don't
bit.
need the manual, you just need practice.
That's right. Practice, practice, practice.
So the next term we're going to talk about is aperture. So if you guys have ever seen our logo, this thing here, that's an aperture.
Yeah.
So what that is the size of the hole in your lens, which is adjustable. So the lower the number, the larger the hole. The larger the number, the smaller the hole. And what that does is not only lets you be able to accept like how much light comes into your camera to hit your sensor, but you're able to adjust your depth of field. Not depth of fields.
Which is our name,
So
if you didn't know.
what depth of field is your focal range. So if you have a very low aperture, so nice and big, let's say you're taking a picture of Josiah, and there's a lot of space behind him. You set your aperture at 2.8. He's going to be nice and crispy focused. Everything behind him is going to be nice and blurry, and he's going to be separated from that background.
Because I'm always crispy.
That's because he's always hungry.
Always. Hungry now.
But if you set that aperture up to, let's say, 18 or 22, and you take that same picture, not only is he going to be in focus, but so is the background.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you want, but I don't know about you, but I love the background being like blown out. Really centers the focus on the subject. It looks nice.
Yeah, and it when you have a nice and shallow depth of field, not only does your background get nice and blurry, but lights in the background turn into what's called a bokeh or bokeh.
Okay.
However you want to say it. Gives you these nice rings of light, and they look so good.
They look so nice. They
So
look
nice.
so good.
So our last term is shutter speed.
Yeah, shutter speed is measured in seconds, and it's that little button at the, little dial at the top where it changes everything and makes everything go, fractions. It's big fractions. How much you, when I suck at math, and when I first saw the fractions, I got real scared. But basically, it measures in seconds. So if you set it to like 1 to 800th, that means it's going to slam the shutter. So think of it like a big door. It's going to slam that door together in 1/800th of a second. So the faster that you set that, so the higher the fractions of 1/1000, 1/1200th of a millisecond or whatever, it's going to make that shutter really fast, and you're going to lose a lot of motion blur. That means that if you're taking a picture of someone running, for instance, and you have that shutter speed very, very fast, they'll be frozen in time. Now, if you want that motion blur, if you want the appearance of motion, you're going to set it lower than that. You're going to set it 1/320th of a millisecond, and that's going to
Just a second, not a millisecond.
oh well. Yeah, that's right. It's just a second, but you'll get more motion blur like that because the camera's going to capture more motion as it's being moved because the door's closing slower.
And that has to do with the type of sensors that these cameras have. So pretty much all your DSLRs, even a lot of your cinema cameras, have a linear shutter, is what it's called. So it reads out the sensor one line at a time. And that's why when it's slower, you're going to get that blur. And even when it comes to video, that's how you get a lot of camera shake. But there's also a thing called a global shutter, which is going to be on your higher end, like medium format cameras like a Hasselblad, or on your cinema cameras like Red. The global shutter exposes the entire sensor at once. So it takes away from that motion blur, and it doesn't, fray things out when you have camera shake.
Do you know what Red stands for? Really expensive damn camera. So it's Red Sea.
Red Sea.
That's not what it stands for. And they're just really expensive because they're super higher end cameras. So most of the cameras you're going to use, like you said, are going to be that linear,
Yes.
that linear sensor, which is great because you can get some really super awesome motion blur shots.
Yeah, so sports is a big thing. I know people love sports, people love wildlife photography. You can look at different styles from different types of people. Let's say you have two wildlife photographers go out into the plains of Africa. They're going to take a picture of a leopard running. One photographer is probably going to freeze that leopard, and it's going to be frozen in time. The next one's going to, take a picture, and you're going to see the blur of the legs moving, and it's going to be super cool. But it just depends on what picture you want. And remember, anytime you change any of these settings, you're probably going to have to adjust a different one because they all work in conjunction together.
Yep, it's kind of like shifting a block at the bottom of a bunch of blocks. As soon as you shift it, all the other ones are going to shift. So you kind of have to experiment. And we do it all the time. When we're on a photo shoot, we'll take some experiment shots. And then we'll look at our cameras and go, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. And then we'll change settings.
Yeah, so the next big thing about your camera is we're going to talk about this dial up here. Not every camera has a dial, most of them do. But we're going to talk about the different settings you can set. So first one we're going to talk about is the M, which is manual mode. Manual mode allows you to set every single setting on your camera. There's going to be able to set your ISO, your shutter speed, your f-stop. You'll be able to change your white balance, everything.
Means
So
you gotta, be a real photographer.
That one takes some practice. So if you want to be shooting in manual mode, get out there, practice.
The next setting is AV. That stands for Aperture Priority. I don't know why there's a V in there, but yeah, Aperture Priority is basically the camera is going to set the aperture for you, and then no,
You're backwards, sir.
I'm backwards.
Aperture Priority lets you set only the aperture and will set all the other settings for you.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to practice with your aperture, which helps you learn more about depth of field. The next one is TV.
That is not what you watch football on, which has just started. I'm so
which has just
excited.
started. So TV is shutter priority. So it allows you to change only your shutter speed, and the camera will set everything else for you. So good way to use that is to practice having no motion blur and some motion blur. So there's a lot of sports photographers that when they're shooting large games and there's a lot of stuff going on super fast, and they need to go from one shot to another quickly, and they're not going to have time to change all the settings, they'll put it in shutter priority. So they're able to move from one shot here to the other shot here, just like that, and they don't miss the action. The last one is P, which is ISO priority. That lets you only set that ISO to be able to give you that artificial light. So take those different modes, practice. If you take all those priority modes, learn each one individually, it'll help you go to manual mode a lot easier.
And there's one more setting, but it's full of shame, and you should never use it.
The last one is that big old A that's green. That is auto. You don't get to change anything. So if you spend all that money on that nice DSLR, you know, take the time, practice, don't use that A. Because you're creative, this camera's not. Don't let it determine your creativity.
Boom. He said it. If I had a mic in my hand, I'd drop it.
Yeah. That auto mode will never let you be creative to your full potential. And we know you guys are creative. So practice with those other modes and let's see the amazing art you guys can make.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
So we got a couple tips for you guys to help you on that next shoot.
Yeah, and the first tip really, it seems so basic. You know, it seems like common sense, but half the time I would always make this mistake. Bring charged batteries. Yeah, that's right. Bring batteries. Always have batteries. Because there's nothing more embarrassing or shameful or disheartening as popping your camera on and seeing that the battery is completely depleted. So always charge your batteries and invest in spares. You never know when you might need more.
Yeah. Next tip kind of goes off of that one. Get yourself a portable battery charger. One of those bricks that looks kind of like a hard drive, portable hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
So say you're out there, you've already burned through 2 batteries, you're on your last one, but you know you're not gonna be able to finish. Just pop that boy out, charge you another battery, you're gonna be good to go.
Yeah, taking a siesta, you know, maybe have some coffee while you're waiting for that puppy to charge. And there's literally thousands of them everywhere from every shape and every size. You can find all kinds of them for very relatively inexpensive to super ridiculous, very unobtainably expensive.
Yes.
Tip number 3 is constantly use your camera. Use your camera every day. Find a reason to use your camera every day because practice makes perfect, right? And that goes with any craft, especially photography. Always mess with your settings, be creative with it, and constantly practice.
Absolutely. Always practice. Doesn't matter if you're sitting at home by yourself, pop your camera out, take a picture of your dog, take a picture of your coffee cup. Just practice using those settings.
But no cats.
No cats.
Just kidding. If you have a cat, take a picture of a cat.
Yes. That kind of also rolls into the next tip, and that is don't take the easy shots. You know, challenge yourself. That's going to make you a better photographer. That's going to make you more creative. So if you see 500 photographers facing one direction, turn around. If everybody's looking down, look up. You know, just challenge yourself to get the more creative picture.
Yep.
And the last but not least, you sat there for hours waiting for the light to be perfect.
Hours.
On the perfect landscape shot.
Hours.
To take one picture. Don't do that. Take that shot, absolutely. But before then, take a picture of your buddy that's with you or your family member, because that's what's going to be memorable 10 years down the road. It's going to create that connection, and it's going to be a good memory for you and that person, more than just that sweeping landscape shot that you spent 4 hours laying in the dirt waiting for the light to be perfect.
The mountains will always be there. The ocean will always be there. The forest, I mean, unless you're in California and it's on fire, will always be there. But your family members and your friends won't always be with you. So make sure you capture those moments. And in fact, I would even suggest that once you do, you put your camera down and you enjoy the time with them, because that's the most important part of anything.
Yep. Those are good tips. I like those.
Yeah, I like those
I hope
tips.
you guys like those. And thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Thanks for tuning in for this episode. And if you guys like that video, hit that like button. You know, smash it if that's what you're really into. Oh, throwback to Peter McKinnon.
Peter McKinnon, yeah.
That guy's awesome.
If you haven't followed him, you should.
You should. He's great. He also has a lot of great tip videos.
Yes.
If you are not subscribed already, hit that subscription button so you can follow along with us. We create this bigger community of photography and videography and just creativity in general. Hit that bell so you get notifications anytime we post a video. And get out there. Be creative. Use these settings. And as always, take your shot. Just go shoot.
Let's make it happen. If you're in California or Oregon or anywhere on the West Coast, we hope that you're being safe and that your family and your friends are doing okay. Make sure you stay safe from all the smoke and fire. It's really bad. And props to those firefighters and first responders that are out there on the front lines.
Yeah. If you got a family member that you know is close to a fire, give them a call. Make sure they're doing all right. And if you see a first responder out there, you know, give them a big thanks, give them a hug, give them a handshake. Just let them know that you're always thinking about them.
Maybe not a hug or a handshake, fist bump.
Just let them know you're thinking about them and that they're awesome. Thanks, guys.
See ya.